Great. Thank you so much, Kara, and the training team for uh, supporting us and helping us get this meeting up and running. Thank you all. Greetings and welcome. Thank you for joining us today. I know all too well how busy we all are, and we appreciate the time taken to join us today. We continue to struggle with the workforce shortage challenges, and that can impact day-to-day business. So your participation today is greatly appreciated. All right, our PASRR project. Next slide, please. Okay. So today we want to recap our process. I know the video recording was made available for folks to view prior to attending this session. So we wanted to take a little bit of time to recap the process, just high level steps to make sure we kind of gauge the full cycle of the process again. We want to spend some time with for some questions and feedback. We did get some initial feedback. We can talk through some of that. We also wanted to share our draft form, our PASRR Level 1 form. In draft status, it's still in draft status. We hope to get some feedback on that as well. And then we'll take a little bit of time to talk through next steps. And most of the time spent on some Q&A. So that's the plan for today's time. Next slide. All right, so this is probably familiar to you. This is what we have available online. Our PASRR pre-admission screening and resident review general process. We've updated that to reflect what the new process is going to look like, or the flow of the new process. We start off by identification when a client is seeking admission to the skilled or intermediate facility, to the long-term care facility. Once that determination has been made, a PASRR Level 1 screening form will need to be completed. We're looking to hospitals or the referring clinic to complete the form. And for those who are Medicaid recipients, or Medicaid patients, we will also be looking for the long-term care authorization form. So you'll have your PASRR Level 1 form for non-Medicaid patients, and then both your PASRR Level 1 form and your long-term care authorization form for Medicaid patients. We see that the PASRR Level 1 form will be completed by the screener who has completed training. We'll have some more information on that as we a little further down the line. So the process will have hospital staff accessing our Harmony system. And once access has been gained, you will have access to the forms, both the PASRR Level 1 forms and the long-term care authorization form. In the system, an inquiry will be the way to submit these forms to SDS. The screening will be completed where you will walk through somewhat of a decision tree that gets you to a determination on the Level 1 screening. So the screening will either screen no or negative. And if it is a negative screening, hospital may proceed with admission to the long-term care facility. If the screening if the outcome of the screening triggers a yes, or that a Level 2 evaluation needs to be completed, this is where you will notify SDS with the form, the actual PASRR level 1 screening form in the system. So triggering SDS to order that level 2 evaluation, whether it goes to the Division of Behavioral Health.
Smile at me every day. So I can.
I'm sorry, was that a question?
I think someone's mic was on. We're
Oh,
taking care of folks behind the scenes, so go ahead.
all right, thank you. So when there is a level 2 evaluation required, or the outcome of the screening was positive, our team will make the request to either the Division of Behavioral Health for those who screened for severe mental illness, or to our IDD unit within SDS for intellectual developmental disabilities. Once that level 2 evaluation is ordered, SDS will monitor for the outcome of that level 2 evaluation. That evaluation will determine whether specialized services are needed. Specialized services, so additional services, additional in the sense of the need for services to address any severe mental illness or an IDD related disability. That's additional to the long-term care or nursing home facility services. If no specialized services are required or recommended, we will, or our SDS team will notify the patient as well as the facility, and admission can proceed. If there are, SDS will work with the facility, and based on the outcome of the level 2 evaluation, consideration of the appropriateness of the placement to the long-term care facility is considered. And likewise, we will also notify the patient as well as the facility. So that's an overview of high-level recap of what the process is going to look like. Again, if it's a Medicaid patient, process is going to look very similar to what we are currently doing now, or our existing process now. But for those non-Medicaid patients, we can, next slide, please, Carol. Non-Medicaid patients, we will only require the PASRR level 1 screening form. And as long as the screening is negative and the form is shared with the admitting facility, hospitals can proceed with admission. Again, with Medicaid recipients, the process doesn't really change much with what we are currently doing now. The level 1 screening will need to be submitted to us with the long-term care authorization form and the usual relevant medical documentation that will be reviewed, and an authorization for admission or for continued stay will be issued to the facility. We wanted to emphasize the importance hospitals or referring providers are responsible for completing the PASRR level 1 screening form. There may be instances where the hospital will need to work with the long-term care facility to complete the form, but process steps are that originates from the hospital or the referring provider. If it is a clinic, initiated and completed at that step. On the long-term care admitting facility side, they are responsible to ensure a complete PASRR level 1 screening is received prior to admission. So just a reminder there. Next slide, please. Questions so far? Now that's probably a lot of information, and having watched the video, are there any questions at this point before we continue? I will share some information while people are still thinking. We are seeing, so we quarterly, what we are seeing in the amount of PASRR level 1 screenings we do receive, we are seeing at least 50% are non-Medicaid patients, and the other 50% are Medicaid patients. So that might be a bit of or depending on whether that number continues, we've seen that number consistently you know, at a 50-50 for Medicaid and non-Medicaid PASRs for the last 3 years. So we see where there may be some efficiencies to be made, to be actualized in the new process. We know that accessing our Harmony system, once we iron out all of those process steps and making sure that there's training available for people to access on demand and not have to you know, wait to send us a question or reach out to us with a question. So some information that might be. Any questions so far? I thought I might have seen something.
Molly, where would we find the video?
The training video for Harmony Access.
Yeah, the one you were just talking about.
So we don't have a training video just yet. Once we can finalize on our form, then we will develop all the new training videos to not only go along with the form, but for Harmony Access. And the only available training now for Harmony is for long-term care facilities who are provisioned as workers in the system. If it is a new user, they are required a Harmony 101, Intro to Harmony training that's available to them. Otherwise, we don't have one just yet for hospital staff accessing Harmony.
And this is Kara. We'll be working with Molly to provide trainings and videos through our learning management system. So it'll just be online where you'd go in and read materials and become a user of Harmony that way.
And you'll send out an email once you guys have all that finished?
Yeah, we'll
Okay,
connect
great.
with everybody. Yeah.
Thank you.
Molly, this is Don from Denali Center. So on the previous slide where it mentioned the facility may assist with the PASRR form, is that referring to specifically like in the clinic setting or someone that's being referred from a home setting?
Yes, we find where well, so in some of the instances we've seen in the past, some hospital staff may not fully understand the PASRR process and might have just PASRR questions that we have known hospitals reach out to facilities for assistance with. And yes, specifically to that example, Don, clinics or admissions from home where the PCP is probably the provider completing the forms and looking to admit someone from home. So yes.
Thank you.
We also do ask that facilities, once they do receive a completed PASRR Level 1 screening, and there seems to be information missing, that they also, in those examples, work with the hospital to make sure that the screening form is completely filled out, all questions answered on the form. We know while 50% of what we see incoming PASRR Level 1 screenings represent non-Medicaid patients, we know that many of them do end up being Medicaid recipients. And many a times we'll see a retro request submitted for those scenarios. And we do look back to the PASRR that was submitted for that non-Medicaid admission. So it may have initially started off as a non-Medicaid admission and it becomes a Medicaid one. We are looking for that PASRR. So while the hospital staff might access Harmony to complete the form, the Level 1 screening form for a non-Medicaid patient, once it's filled out in the system, a copy will be there. A copy will live in Harmony. So, for any reasons, a copy of it will be needed, or, we often hear from different facilities where it might have, the admission might have originated for a different admitting facility. They ended up in a different facility and they're looking for information, a copy of it. We can also, help to provide that. So it lives in the system for any future record keeping if there presents ever the need, especially when they eventually become Medicaid patients. Hey, any other questions so far before we move on?
There's a question in the chat. It says, when do you anticipate acute care using Harmony? Once approved, will the LTC facilities then have access so acute does not have to print or email or fax?
Sorry, I was not paying attention to them. So hospital staff will become users in the Harmony system. You'll be able to access the Harmony system and fill out the PASRR Level 1 screening form. It isn't necessary to once a form has been filled out, you can print and download a copy of the form. And if you're sharing the Level 1 screening form with the admitting facility, you can download, print, and email or fax to the admitting facility. If it is a Medicaid patient and we're looking to admit to the facility, we will allow hospitals access, associating the hospital as a provider to the patient or to the consumer record in the Harmony system. Once the patient is admitted to the facility, we look to the facility to confirm admission with us. And at that time, we will look to close association of the hospital to the patient and open up that association for the long-term care facility to that consumer record. I'm not sure if that quite answers your question, Gwen.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Great. Okay, not hearing any more questions, we can move on to our next slide. So we are looking for any other additional feedback you might have, questions, comments, thoughts about the process. Feel free to send it. You can send it via Outlook to our Outlook email provided there for you, or you can send. I know facilities and hospitals are used to DSM. That's fine. You can also submit it to our DSM email. We hope to collect all feedback by October 11th. We want to be able to combine all the feedback. We are also working with our contact with the PASRR Technical Assistance Center for additional guidance on our forums and considerations for the whole PASRR body of work. So we want to have at least a final draft form we can proceed with. So we ask that all feedback is due to us in a month's time or in 30 days time from now. So you can also send feedback directly to my email, which some have already, but these two emails are the emails preferred. Okay, next slide, please. And this is feedback on the process as well as our form. So, and before we get to sharing our draft form, I wanted to direct everyone to this is our PASRR Technical Assistance Center. The website is provided for you. It's training also on, it's a PASRR 101 training. It's 6 modules, videos that you can watch. That'll help you learn all about PASRR, from federal rules to responsibilities that are upon the state and hospitals, and a good thorough 101 training on PASRR is available to you there. And that will really help prepare you to fill out the form. And we can take a look at what the form looks like next. So I encourage everyone who wants to be a PASRR level 1 screener to take this to complete this PASRR 101 training available on the website. Okay, we'll take a look at that form.
Okay, let me go ahead and grab that one.
Thank you, Kara.
Look okay?
Perfect, thank you. So yes, the slides and the form will be made available to you. Karen and team will get that sent out. So here's a draft of our new PASRR level 1 screening form. for the most part, information, starting off with the first page, your demographic information. Our team, our nurses, Rachel and Scott and team have put in a lot of work on creating the new form to capture the intent of the screening form, as well as considering information and making the form a little more user friendly. It's prepared in PDF now, and the way the form is laid out is how we hope to have it built out in Harmony. So depending on how that's going to look in Harmony, it may not look exactly like what the form looks like here, but as we work on building the form out in Harmony, we'll be able to share how the form will look and the flow of the form. But and Rachel and Scott, feel free to jump in. So we're just going to kind of go page by page. The first page will look at almost exactly the same as what you're used to filling out now. A lot of demographic information. Section 2 looks at legal representation whether there is a decision maker assisting with making the final decision to admit to a nursing home, access long-term care facility services. Section 3, your current location. Section 4, looking at the proposed admitting facility. Again, we understand that initially it may start off with considering multiple facilities. But again, we're looking at what the most likely facility is going to be, as well as including the list of other facilities that are being considered. Page 2 starts you off with your screening. Section 5 looks at assistance with communication. Sorry, can you zoom in just a little more, Kara? Close my chat down so I can see that a little better. So you see where it's built in the form. We're looking to build in drop downs for yes, no answer selections. So section 5 looks at assistance with communication. Whether a resident or a patient requires assistance with communication, an interpreter, or other accommodations to participate in the PASRR process. Section 6, we're looking at dementia, including ADRD, other neurocog disorders. You've got a set of questions there that helps us to identify whether the primary diagnosis is dementia, and or helps you identify whether there's a primary diagnosis of dementia and there's a categorical determination that may be appropriate. All of those questions are set up to be yes/no questions. And you'll see below different sections, you'll have some information that will help you fill out the form. So section 6, you'll see there below that box talks about a primary diagnosis of dementia, including Alzheimer's. A neurocog disorder is not considered a major mental illness or related condition. So some guidance provided there for you. Section 7, we get into a little more detailed information about SMI, or serious mental illness. Looking at the selections provided there, again, answers are drop downs and are specific yes/no responses. additional information provided there. So the form might look very wordy, but we're building into the form the decision tree that helps walk the screener through to not only answer the question, but get to a determination of negative or negative screening, or that the level 2 evaluation has been triggered. So again, below each section 7, there's also some additional guidance there. SDS will refer for a PASRR level 2 evaluation for SMI if the following conditions are met. So you have one, all the questions in the above section are marked yes, or there's a credible suspicion of SMI, or that the client does not meet the criteria for a level 1 determination. So additional guidance provided below each section is where we're looking for, the feedback. Does that help, or is additional clarity needed? Or so interested in the feedback. Sorry, I think I see a question. So who is responsible for getting the PASRR 1 determination? It is the hospital filling out once the determination is made that there is intent to admit to the long-term care facility, the hospital needs to complete the PASRR level 1 screening form prior to admission. So there may be cases where there might be some assistance requested, with the long-term care admitting facility, but the responsibility is on the hospital.
What about if they're going from one LTC to another?
So that would be a transfer. It may not necessarily be considered an initial admission, depending on what kind of facility. If you're going from long-term care facility, just transferring to another facility as a new admission to that facility, but a continued LTC stay. Correct me if I'm wrong, Rachel and Scott, but we may not necessarily need a PASRR level 1 screening.
So for all transfers, if they're going to a new facility, they need a new PASRR. If they're continuing at their existing facility and something's changed, then we would ask for a PASRR resident review. Typically, like Molly said, the onus is going to be on the hospital to fill out the PASRR as that's how it currently is right now, right? The hospital initiates the PASRR level 1, does the screening and submits the form. With this new process change, the idea would be that not every, if it's a negative screening, the form's going to be filled out, but it's not going to need a state review component on all the negative PASRRs that don't have an authorization attached to them. And the person, as soon as the form's filled out, can go ahead and move from the hospital to the admitting facility. But also, just because the hospital is responsible for filling it out, there's going to be some responsibility on that admitting facility to ensure that the form was completed in its entirety, because it's going to be tied to your ability to bill Medicaid in the future. But to answer the simple question for transfers, typically you're going to fill out a new PASRR for moving someone to a new facility. And it's going to be whatever facility they're currently in filling out the form.
Okay, does that help answer the question? Thank you for that clarification, Rachel. Yes, Gwen, it is currently tied to your facility's ability to bill Medicaid. Okay, we can, moving on to page 3 of the form. Jennifer, so Jennifer's question in the chat. So the person that screens and completes the PASRR is making the determination that a level 2 is not needed. Yes and no. So as the screener is answering all of the questions in the form, the responses to those questions are leading the screener to an outcome, whether the screening is negative or triggering of a level 2. So it's not necessarily the screener making a determination that a level 2 is not needed. We're looking to the form to identify that. Does that help answer the question?
Sorry, it does. This is Jennifer. I was just curious. So they do have to, it looks like you have to have the accompanying documents that support the answers that you've put on the form. Is that correct? Is that what I see? The history and physical or progress note, plan of care. Those things need to be with the form, and it needs to support the answers. Is that correct?
Yeah, so if you're screening someone, specifically, let's use the non-Medicaid patients as an example. If you are screening someone who is non-Medicaid, we're looking, or this is, these documents are meant to trigger documents that should or could be reviewed to help you answer those questions. It isn't necessarily, you don't have to submit those documents with the screening form unless the person might have triggered a level 2. And we're looking to, or you're notifying SDS that a level 2 evaluation needs to be requested or ordered, then those documents would be required to help justify or support the outcome of the screening or the information that the screener found.
Okay. So the onus, the responsibility on the receiving facility is not necessarily, we're just making sure it's completed in its entirety, not necessarily the information.
Correct.
Okay.
However, however, I will say if you are reviewing and you see information that's questionable, or information that might lead you to question a response or the outcome of a level 1 screening, that would be something we encourage facilities to do, is to follow up on that. They're just I would say best practice is to ask the question just in case there's some sort of action that needs to be taken, or something doesn't get missed or falls through the cracks.
Okay.
Okay, moving along, section 8 starts to look at your intellectual disability or related condition. Again, formatting of the question, it looks at yes and no answers only. Additional guidance provided. What was that? See that? But specific to ID or intellectual disability or related condition, looks at the federal requirements or federal guidance on what that is, a diagnosis or or indicators of whether condition has manifested before age 22. And so, of course, just below there, there's some additional guidance on how to consider the information depending on the answers to your Section 8. Section 9, medical documents required to accompany the level 1 screening should a level 2 be required. And then we get into our signature section. And then our Section 11 is our final PASRR level 1 determination. There may be a determination or the determination may be negative or that there is a terminal illness. So the form is built to provide all of that addition of that guidance to help you complete the form or help lead you to that determination. Terminal illness, severe physical illness, whether there's a primary dementia diagnosis with a mental health illness or with an ID or RD condition, or that a level 2 is triggered. Sorry, I'm seeing some questions or pop up in the chat. So the question is, a physician who signs the admission PASRR should not be associated with the admitting LTC facility. Our hospitalists are frequently one and the same. So there is some there is some concern there when the physician who signs off on the PASRR or is complete, who might be completing the PASRR, when there are conditions of that sort, there is consideration that we can continue to accept that physician's signature, where in our rural areas, the hospital is the THO that might be the sole provider in that community. And so finding a different provider may be problematic for timely admission so there is some consideration. I think, Rachel, there was guidance provided to us from our PASRR technical assistance contact that allowed us some leeway there for cases that meet that criteria specifically. Any other thoughts to add to that, Rachel?
Yeah, mostly just to kind of echo what Molly said, is that we're looking to make sure there's not a conflict of interest when that physician's signing off on that form. We know that in a lot of our locations across the state, that the physician that's working in the hospital system is also the one that's providing a lot of the cares or signing the orders off for the LTC side, and the LTC sometimes is located in the same facility. So in those instances, we do give a little bit of grace. For more urban locations, definitely there's plenty of physicians that that aren't directly associated with the LTC facility. So we're looking at those signatures to make sure they're not working directly at the facility. And in a lot of cases in urban areas, they have a group that's contracted to work at the facility. So they're not directly working for that hospital system, so to speak. They're contracted, but there is a little bit of leeway, and if there's something that's suspicious or concerning, typically we'll send it back and say, hey, can you please get an updated physician signature? But if we review it and sign off on it, we're accepting of the physician who signed the form.
Does that help answer the question? Let's see. For provider signature, can we add nurse practitioners? Some are the following providers for patients.
Right now, I believe the regulation is that it has to be signed by a physician, and that's what we've been working off of. I know if it is signed by a nurse practitioner, we send it back to get a physician signature. But so this is like a draft form, and we're asking for feedback for your input. So those are really good ideas to share with us. We're gonna meet with our contact at the PTAC, the PASRR Technical Assistance Center, to ask some of those questions on maybe how we can update this. And one of the questions I know I have for him is, is there any flexibility with that physician signature? Or is it, are we going to continue to make it set in stone where it needs to have that physician's name on it and their signature? So that's something that we'll review and see if it can be updated or not. Right now, it's definitely a hard line. It has to be signed by a physician.
All right, hopefully that answers that question. Like Rachel said, definitely some things we are exploring on our end. A question in the chat, would it be possible to include the exception criteria where a physician employed by the same organization would be allowable? Considerations, yes. Okay, on to the last page of our form. Is a state of Alaska use page. This is where we're if a level 2 is required, or we're looking to make a time limited determination, specifically section 13 there, exempted hospital discharge or convalescent care determinations. Section 4 is that actual PASRR level 2 evaluation and section 14, PASRR level 2 evaluation and determination section. So we will make the request for a level 2 evaluation to either DBH or IDD, and monitor and track that for a final evaluation and determination for specialized services. So that's our form. Get to the bottom section of that, section 14. Kind of laid out there so we can easily see where information where the PASRR level 2 was completed and whether specialized services have been recommended. And of course, your signature there. So that's our form. We will have the form available to you. Review it with your teams, walk through it. We welcome all feedback. And again, looking to collect all feedback by the 11th of October. It gives us a time frame to work with our contact over at the PTAC Technical Assistance Center, and hope to finalize a version of the form that we can then build in Harmony and start to test. So next slide, or the final, sorry, back to our slide deck. And our last slide looks at next steps. So again, any and all feedback about the process and the form due by October 11th. We will work on form revisions. We plan to complete that by the end of October. We want to start to develop training, identify specific training requirements for folks to become Harmony users. Part of the training that will be required before you can be provisioned as a user is that PASRR 101 training. So it's good to get that, get familiar with that training. In addition to other trainings specific to our form and our process in Harmony. We also will be working on developing more training resources for you. So we hope to get that up and running hopefully by mid-November, and then once the forms are ready in Harmony, Harmony is ready for new users. We will request up to at least 5 facilities to test, access Harmony, test out the form, test out the process, you know, and we'll look to collect some feedback after that and refine our process before we look to implement. So you guys saw some
There are some questions in the chat.
okay, let's see here. Okay, Kara will send out the draft form and the link to the PowerPoint. So is the process the same that the LTC does not admit until the level 1 PASRR has been reviewed by the state? So for your non-Medicaid patients, the process does not have a state step included in there. So the hospital will be able to access Harmony, fill out the form, complete the screening. And if the screening outcome is negative, hospital just needs to share the form or submit the form to the admitting LTC facility, and they can proceed with admission. So yes, the screening has to be done prior to admission, but it does not require state review. I would say that the review part will now live with the LTC facility, accepting or admitting the patient. They will review to make sure that the form is completed and accept the admission, proceed with admission. How does the doctor sign the form in Harmony? So again, your current practice now is you're able to download the form onto your desktop and have the form signed. You can either print it out, you can affix a electronic signature to the form. So yes, that next question, yes, electronic signatures are accepted. And our DNP is able to sign as provider. Rachel, I am not sure whether,
Right now, we only take physician signatures, so it has to be the DO or an MD. Well, we're still waiting for feedback from PTAC about some of the things that we might be able to update, but for now, it has to be a physician. It can't be a nurse practitioner, it can't be a doctor. Someone who has a doctorate in nursing, it has to be a physician. And if that changes, we'll definitely communicate that.
okay, and our final slide, I believe, just kind of takes us back to the emails where you can submit feedback.
Molly, there was one more question in here from
Oh, sorry.
Connie about Harmony accounts being deactivated after 30 days of inactivity. Has there been any consideration to extending the inactivity period? I think you had mentioned there was a change on that.
Yes, so it has been extended to 90 days of inactivity before accounts are deactivated. Yes, sorry. Yeah, any other questions, thoughts, comments?
This is
Question.
Don, going back to your page 2, question number 7, about history of perhaps like home or housing authority or law enforcement authority, an issue within the last 2 years. There are some referrals that I kind of question a little bit, so I go back to court view and see if there's any record that person has had. I don't know, otherwise that I might just know this for people. And then another example is we've welcomed people to stay with us that were homeless, found them housing and discharged them, and they remained in housing. But before another medical reason were referred back to us and re-entered. So the truth is, yes, they had housing issues within the last 2 years, but not really since the last year while they've had stable housing. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, the time frame referenced and considered will include a lot of different things that might have happened during that time frame. I think it's most appropriate to respond based on the most recent. Unless there remains a concern for housing, that can kind of guide and help you make a determination for your best answer for each of those questions.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
There was another question in the chat from Lee that said to clarify, the physician will have access to having Harmony in order for them to sign the PASRR electronically.
Not necessarily. I can verify, but the Harmony signature field in the form may not necessarily require that the doctor, of course, the doctor can have access to Harmony should he choose to be trained on completing PASRR screenings, and he can absolutely have that, but it isn't necessary that he is a user in Harmony in order to have his signature. But like Lee is saying, it can be, the form can be just downloaded to your desktop, affix your electronic signature that way. But I can verify with our admin with Harmony on the question, but I don't believe that's necessary.
Hi there, this is Lee. You don't have to follow up on that. I was just trying to see how this was either going to ease our process from the hospital side or be cumbersome. And if we're all going to have to get over to Harmony, I really feel like this is just adding an extra layer to compared to the process that we currently use.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
There is one more question here. It's Leanne asks, as an admitting facility who receives the negative non-Medicaid PASRR from the hospital, how do you validate and verify that the PASRR was submitted via Harmony?
So for non-Medicaid PASRs, because we are requiring the form be filled out in Harmony, there will be a record of that form in Harmony. The downloaded version of that form that will be sent to you, because it's a non-Medicaid resident or patient, you know, verification, Harmony verification may not necessarily be confirmed that way, but it is our process. You can always reach out to us. So there will not be a state step in there to verify the screening. So we may not know unless you reach out to us. But the way our process is built now, hospitals will need to access Harmony in order to fill out the level 1 screening form. We're not making it a step to verify submission of the form to the state. But having it filled out in Harmony will secure a record of the form lives in Harmony, and that's where all PASRR level 1 forms will be will live for all LTC admitting residents or participants. Does that help answer your question, Leanne?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, any other questions or thoughts? And if you don't have any now, that's fine. You feel free to submit feedback to us to either email, whichever email you prefer. Otherwise,
Can I hop in? Oh, can I hop in here? Just to remind everyone. So this DSM, everybody, I believe on this call most likely has access to DSM, right? Both hospitals and LTC facilities. This is our main DSM inbox. If you ever have a question about a process, if you're submitting a PASRR or a PASRR with an authorization, please always send it to this address via direct secure messaging. This is the quickest way for us to get stuff, and it goes to our whole team. So I would just remind everybody, submit your feedback. That's a great way to do it. Our whole team will see it, anything you send that way. And yeah, DSM is always our preferred way of contact. That way somebody can grab it as quick as possible and respond.
yes, thank you, Rachel. That is a good reminder. Not all participants or not all stakeholders involved have DSM access. So feel free, if you don't have DSM access, you can send it to the Outlook email. Okay, if any other thoughts or comments before we sign off?
Molly, it's Melissa. I was just wondering. So when Rachel and Scott send me something on Harmony and say that a PASRR review needs to be done, should I be doing it on Harmony or can I just do it by the paper form for now?
Our existing process, I know we do have our PASRR screening for our current PASRR screening form does live in Harmony. But I don't believe we are completing those in Harmony. So I want to just double back with to Rachel and Scott on that just to make sure I'm not speaking out of turn.
Yeah, right now all of our PASRs, whether it's an admission PASRR, a transfer PASRR, or a resident review for an existing LTC resident, those are all going to be done on the PDF, the paper, because it has to have that physician signature component, and the one that exists in Harmony, right now with our current process, the physician wouldn't be able to sign it. So right now everything is still with the PASRR still being done on that paper. So you can just fill out a PASRR form and submit it via Harmony as an attachment. And then we'll review it and update the determination or make a level 2 referral.
Okay, so keep continuing to just do it on the paper and then we could scan and put it onto Harmony.
Yeah. So right now nothing is changing with our current processes. We're still doing everything how we're currently doing it. But for that PASRR, you can submit it via Harmony, or if it's your preference, you can also send it via DSM. We'll catch it both ways, regardless of the way you submit it, but just make sure and use the paper form.
Okay, thank you.
Good, thank you, Melissa. Great questions. Okay, not seeing absolutely, Don. Thank you so very much. Not seeing any more questions we can help to answer at this time. I just want to thank everyone for taking the time to join us. I know this process has been a long time coming. We hope to finalize these pieces and you know, engage all of the different feedback that we're getting, help us to refine our process and see where we can make where we can actualize some efficiencies on both ends. But again, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for providing us with the feedback. And I see one more question in the chat. When we admit to long-term care from the community, we have been assisting community doctor clinics with submitting the PASRR via DSM. With this new process, would we submit via Harmony? Yes, Leanne, that would be that's the current thought on how facilities would be assisting with the process when admitting from home. Continue to work, doctors would continue to work with the facilities, and the facilities can submit to SDS via Harmony. Okay, Gwen. Yes, thank you. Okay, anything else before we conclude? All right, if not, thank you all so very much for joining us. Thank you, Kara and team, for the continued support. We look forward to our next meeting to provide updates and engage for some more feedback. So